Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week 6 of the NFL season. This is the Eagles pregame show here on Philly Sports brought to you by SeatGeek. Use code Philly Sports Report and take $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Today, the Eagles head into MetLife Stadium to take on the 2-3 New York Jets. The Eagles look to stay undefeated. My name is Benjamin Goldstein. I am joined by Sam Hyde. Sam, welcome to week 6.
It's crazy. It's already week 6. I feel like I was counting down the days for the season to start just last week, but here we are already a month and a half into the season, and it's crazy that we're already here, but it's great to be 5-0.
Yeah, and we're it's insane that we're already here, and it looks like we're looking at it's a little bit of a little deja vu from last season with that 5-0 start. Hopefully, we can just win one more game in February this season. But with that, we'll start with the quarterback matchup. It is Zach Wilson versus Jalen Hurts. This game is scheduled for 4:25. They were hoping it was going to be a little bit more of a better quarterback matchup for this game. Maybe a little Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Hurts action. But no, it's going to be Zach Wilson. But first, we'll start on the Eagles side with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts' two stats so far in this 5-0 season. He has thrown for 1,262 yards with a completion percentage of 67.3, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, passer rating of 91.4. He has 206 rushing yards with 4 rushing touchdowns. Sam, Jalen Hurts has 4 interceptions already. It took him multiple weeks. It took him a while last year to get to those 4 interceptions. What is going on with him that he has so many picks?
I think one of the biggest things is that teams kind of looked at the Eagles all offseason as the team that had the most innovative offense from last year, the newest team to kind of bring new offensive ideas into the season, kind of like we saw with the 2017 Eagles that went on and won the Super Bowl. The next year you came back and you saw their offense kind of struggled a little bit because defenses were planning all offseason. So I think Robert Saleh said it, that the Eagles are the stepping mark. They're the bench clearing mark that you want to try to beat this season. I think that every single team feels that way. So a lot of those teams have been planning for a while for this game and planning on how to stop Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense. So I think in the beginning of the season, a lot of these defenses came with a lot of new schemes that we've never seen before, a lot of new areas that we've never really seen before to try to stop us. And I think that Jalen was really struggling with that a little bit, being a little bit confused by what he was seeing. But over the last few weeks, we've seen him kind of diagnose everything a lot better, get back into the rhythm that we saw last year from him and not really been turning the ball over in the past few weeks. So I think it was just a little bit of starting off the season with a bunch of new defensive looks. And I expect to not see as many turnovers from him going forward as he gets way more experience playing against these type of new defenses.
Yeah, last week the Eagles got the victory over the Rams, advancing to 5-0. What did we see from the offense in week 5?
One of the biggest takeaways from last week's game on offense is just the dominance this season so far from A.J. Brown. 4th in the league in receiving yards, 6th in catches. He had 3 straight games now with 100 yards in a row, which is crazy. 2 weeks ago he had 175 yards against Washington, which is just incredible, and he is on an absolute roll right now. Whether or not that has to do with him talking to Jalen and Sirianni on the sidelines, and then after that getting the ball a lot more, who knows? But it's working, and I hope they keep going to it. Another biggest takeaway I would have would be Jalen Hurts looked a lot better running the ball. One of the things that people were talking about, including myself, was that he hadn't really looked the same in the running game as he had in the past, whether it was just going down early or not really extending plays with his legs, kind of throwing the ball away. Maybe he looked a step slower. Last week, he did not look like that at all. He was running over people. He was making crazy plays on 3rd down. And I think it just shows that he was kind of taking a little bit of a subdued approach in the beginning of the season because he has had injuries over the past 2 years of, him moving outside the pocket and getting injured. So I think that he can still obviously do it when he needs to do it. And I think that was a big relief off of people's minds that, hey, when he still needs to get these first downs, when he still needs to take over the game with his legs, he can. So I think that was a huge step in the right direction for the offense last week. And the last thing that we saw was Dallas Goedert finally getting involved. Goddard had under 100 yards through the first 4 games of the season, which is insane for a tight end of his caliber. He's obviously a great blocking tight end, but he's also a great receiving tight end as well. So for him to more than double his receiving yards for the season in one game, go over 100 in that one game was really great to see him getting involved. And yeah, I just think it was a great game overall for the offense and the passing game, and definitely, I think probably their best game overall of the season from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, my one problem I had last week was the red zone. They've had multiple red zone stands where they just had to kick the field goal. You heard Jason Kelsey's disappointment with the offense in the red zone last week. What can the offense do this week and in the future to get some more touchdowns while inside the 20?
Yeah, the red zone offense this year for the Eagles has been very bad, and it is definitely something that, if we kind of look so far this season, there's been a little bit concerning things going on. That is definitely the most concerning thing on the offensive side of the ball, because we knew Jalen was going to get going, we knew AJ was going to get going, Goddard's going to get his, but the red zone offense is struggling. They have kicked the most field goals in the NFL so far this season, which is fine because they've been playing these lesser teams where they've been able to win by scoring field goals. But when you get to these better teams, Kansas City, San Francisco, Dallas, you're going to need to score touchdowns. And one of the biggest things that I think is just Nick Sirianni being way more aggressive. I've seen him kind of not taking an aggressive approach so far this season. We've gotten in some down and distances where it's 4th and 3, 4th and 2, 4th and 4 on like the 35, 36, 20. And he's elected to kick field goals there where I and most of Philadelphia honestly would like to see him kind of go for those and keep the drive alive, because a lot of times when you get down in the red zone, obviously there's way less area for the offense to work in. The drives can kind of stall a little bit, and maybe getting that first down, getting that confidence back, getting a new set of downs can get the offense back on track a little bit. So I would like to see him be a little bit more aggressive. Even going back to the Super Bowl last year, one of the biggest knocks on Sirianni was that he didn't kick a field goal, or he did kick a field goal instead of going for it on 4th down, which obviously the Eagles ended up losing that game by just a few points, where if they didn't kick the field goal and went for it, that they may have won the game. And AJ Brown talked about it after the game. So it's something that we saw a little bit last year from Sirianni, but it's definitely something that we've seen a lot more this season. And I think also one of the biggest things is just Brian Johnson, the new play caller, not really having a rhythm in the red zone yet. Like I said, it's a lot harder to score once you get to the red zone because you have way less plays you can run. The defense knows they're not going to get beat over top. Everybody can kind of play on the outside, play everything in. So I think Brian Johnson just needs to get into a little bit more of a rhythm with red zone play calling. But definitely Sirianni being more aggressive could definitely help them out as well on those short down and distances on 4th down.
I really liked what I saw from Brian Johnson last week. I think last week was his first almost perfectly called game last week, which is just very encouraging to see from him and the Eagles offense. This week, however, they are facing the Jets. The Jets have a very good defense. However, they are without their star quarter, Sauce Gardner, today, which really helps out the Eagles. So what should we expect from the Eagles this afternoon and Jalen Hurts against the Jets defense without Sauce Gardner?
So I think today is definitely a day that we should expect the Eagles offense to put up a ton of points. The Jets coming into the season were touted even before the season started, they were touted as one of the best defenses in the league. And they kind of showed that last year where they were in a lot of games, but their quarterback was really bad, so they didn't win a lot of games. But this year that's not really been the case. Their defense has extremely struggled versus the run. They're one of the bottom teams in the league versus the run. So I think that's definitely an area that we're going to be able to take advantage of today with DeAndre Swift. But as far as Jalen, like you said, Sauce Gardner's out, one of the best young corners in the league. DJ Reed, their other starting corners out, and then their backup corners out, and then their other backup corners out. So they got guys that they're pulling up off the street that are going to be playing today against our elite wide receivers. So it definitely should be a big game through the air for Jalen against the Jets defense. The Jets like to run a zone pass scheme on defense where they don't really have any of the corners travel. Not that without Sauce or DJ Reed they would have anyone travel, but even with those great corners, when they are playing, Sauce Gardner just kind of stays on that one side. So they're definitely going to be doing that with their guys that they're going to have in there today. So I would expect the Eagles to try to move around their wide receivers, try to get AJ on some good matchups, Dallas on good matchups, Devontae. So it should definitely be a big game through the air for Jalen today, and I would also expect DeAndre Swift to have a big game. The Eagles should definitely put up some points today. If they leave this game still struggling to score in the red zone, the Jets also are one of the worst red zone defenses in the league. I think they're 27th or 28th in the league in red zone defense. So this could definitely be a game to get it going. So the Eagles should definitely be expected to put up a lot of points today, and I think Jalen's going to have a really good game through the air.
Really need one of those. Let's look at Zach Wilson on the other side of the ball for the Jets. His stats so far this season: he is 2-3 with passing yards with 911 of yards passing, completion percentage of 61.1, 4 passing touchdowns. He's thrown 5 interceptions. He has a passer rating of 73.4, 83 rushing yards, 0 rushing touchdowns. Zach Wilson, we did not expect him to see him this year. We expected to see Aaron Rodgers, a much more, Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson. We kind of know what he is now in his third year in the league, but he has improved. He has started to look better.
Yeah, he has started to look better over the last 2 games. They obviously won the game last week against the Broncos, even though he did have a late interception that the Broncos just were not able to take advantage of. But against the Chiefs, he had a really bad first quarter and then started playing better as the game went on. I think one of the biggest things is that the Jets fan base does not like Zach Wilson at all. They hated him last season, and as a bust first-round pick, that's normally how it goes. But I think one of the biggest things for Wilson to kind of get it turned around is that the guys have finally shown on the Jets coaching staff, the Jets players, that they have confidence in him and they're behind him. Because I think when Aaron Rodgers first went down, obviously the Jets fan base was extremely disappointed, but you could tell that the Jets players were extremely disappointed, the coaches, all that stuff, and they didn't really want Zach Wilson there. So I think one of the biggest things for Wilson that he's been kind of playing well, obviously not to the extent of like the Trey Turner ovation, but you see when confidence is put to a player and given to a player, how they can kind of just relax a little bit and play more free. So I think that that's one of the biggest things that he's been able to do. But he still has a lot of turnover problems. He's still not great passing the ball down the field. He still has his issues. So I think the Eagles should definitely be able to take advantage of him today at the quarterback. But he has been playing better since in the last couple games.
Yeah, 2 big losses on defense for the Eagles today. Jalen Carter and Darius Slay are both out for today's game, which is obviously a huge loss for the Eagles, but a big gain for the Jets offense. With those 2 out, what should we expect from the Jets on offense today?
So the Jets have really a lot of people coming into the season with reigning offensive player of the year, Garrett Wilson on the outside, and obviously Aaron Rodgers coming in and signing those wide receivers like Allen Lazard and Greg Cobb and all those Rodgers guys thought that this was going to be a big air attack. And then when Rodgers went down, they've kind of transitioned into a rushing attack. They have Breece Hall, who had a season-ending injury last year, but looked really good and has kind of picked up where he's left off. He's averaging 7.2 yards per carry this season, which is incredible. They have Dalvin Cook, who's had a horrible year so far. Doesn't even have 100 yards rushing on the season yet, but he is a veteran who can kind of get it going. So the Jets are definitely going to try to run the ball, keep Breece moving, use their offensive line to try to push around the Eagles' defensive line and try to limit Zach Wilson's mistakes. But with Slay out, I do think that they're going to try to get Garrett Wilson on some favorable matchups. It's going to be really interesting to see what the Eagles do because normally Darius Slay follows receivers, and he definitely was probably going to follow Garrett Wilson around today. So it's going to be interesting to see if they have James Bradbury follow or if with the younger cornerbacks that are going to be starting today, if they're going to be playing more of like a zone defense and just kind of keep the guys on one side and keep everything in front of you. So from that standpoint, not really sure what they're going to do on defense, but the Jets are definitely going to try to move Garrett Wilson around to try to get some favorable matchups, get Zach Wilson some easy catches against a banged-up Eagles secondary.
Yeah, we'll see what happens today with that. Position advantages. There's a few advantages for both of these teams. What are they? What are they?
So obviously the biggest advantage with all the injuries is going to be the Eagles wide receivers versus the Jets cornerbacks. The Eagles wide receivers against any cornerback duo in the league is going to be an advantage. But when you take out Sauce Gardner and you take out DJ Reed and you take out their two backup cornerbacks. They got guys coming off the street, guys who played for the Eagles in 2020, like Craig James, who are really bad. They're starting Bryce Hall today, who was on the team in 2021, and he's the reason. I heard a Jets reporter say today that he's the reason that Sauce Gardner and DJ Reader are Jets because of how bad he is and how bad he was in 2021. So that's definitely going to be the biggest advantage in the whole entire game today. And the Eagles wide receivers need to take huge advantage of that. And then the Eagles defensive line versus the Jets offensive line. Even when the Jets had Aaron Rodgers, one of the biggest knocks against them winning the Super Bowl was the Jets, or going to the Super Bowl, going deep into the playoffs, was that the Jets O-line is not good. I have Jets fans who are friends of mine who say that they've been building a wall for years, but that wall has not been put up well. And Elijah Vera Tucker just went on IR, and they've allowed a lot of sacks. And Zach Wilson can definitely start chucking the ball up there if he gets in trouble. So even without Jalen Carter in there today, the Eagles' defensive line definitely has a huge advantage against a bad Jets offensive line.
Yeah, Jalen Carter, he's been so good in his first rookie season, but hopefully it won't make a huge difference today, him not being there. Obviously it will, but hopefully these other guys can step up and fill in for him today. Notable matchups. You said a few already, I think, with the corners and the wide receivers and the offensive defensive line, but notable matchups in today's Week 6 matchup between the Eagles and Jets.
Yeah, so for that, I'm just going to go right back to it. Just a few players specifically. Devontae Smith versus Bryce Hall. I said it before how Bryce Hall has looked at as by Jets reporters and fans as not good, and the reason that they had to go out and take Sauce Gardner 4th overall. And obviously, it's worked out for them. Sauce Gardner is a great corner, but Bryce Hall is not very good, and Devontae Smith over the last few games has not really been involved that much. A couple games ago, he had 78 yards, but last week only one catch. You kind of see this with the Eagles. They kind of will have one guy go off for a couple games, and then they'll get the other guy involved. And with how A.J. Brown's been performing over the last few weeks, it's definitely going to be a focus of the Jets defense with all their cornerback injuries to make sure that they have safety help over top of A.J. Brown. So I think Devontae could get a big catch or two in there today. And then Hassan Reddick versus Max Mitchell, their right tackle. We saw Hassan Reddick last week have 2 clutch sacks to really put the game away. He's without that cast for the 3rd straight week, and every week he's had that cast off. He's gotten a sack. He's up to 3 now, which is crazy how he just gets that cast off and goes right back at it. And like I said, the Jets have a really bad offensive line, and I think Hassan Reddick is going to continue his hot streak and get another sack today and really be a game wrecker and back to the player that we saw last year.
Yeah, and that would be really good to see. It's also really good to see a game in person. It's really good to have your tuchus in that seat in any venue you go to, whether that's in Philadelphia, New York, anywhere around the country, in the world, for any sort of event. But there's one great way to buy your ticket, and that's on SeatGeek. And they are the sponsor of today's live stream. SeatGeek is a ticketing app that makes buying tickets so easy. When you are in checkout at SeatGeek, you're going to use code Philly Sports Report and save $20 off your first SeatGeek order. It's the best way to buy your tickets, and with tickets, especially for the MLB playoffs being so stinking expensive, save some money. Why not? Go to SeatGeek, use code Philly Sports Report, and save $20 off your first purchase.
Yeah, I mean, standing room only for Game 1 of the NLCS in Philadelphia is, I think, $380, which is crazy, but you could get it for $360, and then, potential World Series coming up, hopefully, and, hopefully there's no more games after Game 1 and 2 in this series, but if you got to go 6 or 7, it'd be a great opportunity to get in there, and it's not going to be cheap, but, you could pay for your parking with that savings right there.
There you go. You're paying for something. It's helping you out some way, somehow. Let's look at the SeatGeek standout stars. Philly Sports has been very good with our SeatGeek standout stars when it comes from the Eagles or the Phillies live stream shows. So let's keep it on. The SeatGeek standout stars. Let's stay hot, Sam.
All right, well, I've mentioned his name so far a couple of times in the position advantage and the notable matchup, but Devontae Smith has not been involved really in the offense the last few games. And like I said before, the Eagles, when a guy hasn't gotten a lot of catches or hasn't gotten a lot of touches in the last few games, they're going to kind of get him involved early and often. And I do think it is a great matchup for Devontae today. And then my other one's going to be Jordan Davis. He had a great start to this season, but has kind of trailed off a little bit with Jalen Carter out and the Jets wanting to run the ball. If the Eagles defense is going to stop the Jets offense today, I think Jordan Davis is going to be the main reason why. I think he's going to gobble up Breece Hall a few times, maybe even get in there on a pass rush once or twice. But the Jets are going to try to run the ball down the Eagles' throats, and Jordan Davis is going to be the guy there waiting. And this is the kind of game that we got him for. Jordan Davis coming out. If he was able to rush the passer, it became a bonus, and he's done that a few times so far this season. But we drafted Jordan Davis to be a run stopper, and these are the exact type of games that you need him to show up, and I think he's going to have a big game today.
And he's going to have to with some of these Eagles inactives. Let's look at the inactives for both teams. The Eagles today inactive. First on the list is Jalen Carter. He is inactive today. Tanner McKee, the quarterback. Rashad Penny, running back. Albert O, the tight end. Marlon Tuipulotu. I hope I said that right.
Tuipulotu.
It's just something about these names. It's just I don't know about that one. Defensive tackle, and then Darius Slay, the quarterback. He is also inactive. So two huge inactives for the Eagles. For the Jets, on their inactive list, wide receiver Jason Brownlee, Zaire Barnes, the linebacker, Michael Clemens, the defensive end, Brandon Eccles, the quarterback, and DJ Reed, cornerback, and then Sauce Gardner, obviously. And then, man, they are down some corners right now. It's like, I think you could go out and play corner for them today.
I know. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, they brought up Craig James off the practice squad. We saw him in Philadelphia, and there's a reason that he's not here anymore. And it's tough. And I think one of the other things that is big, a lot of people don't talk a lot about special teams. But what was the one? I think his last name starts with an E. Brian. He's out, but he's their top. He led the league in special teams tackles last season. So Britton Covey has done a great job returning punts so far this season, and it'll definitely be. He should take advantage of that guy not being out there, because last year he was a star on special teams, and there's not many guys in the league where you look at them and they're stud special teams players. A lot of those guys are just backups from different positions, but this guy is a stud special teams player. Like I said, led the league in special teams tackles last season. So that is going to be a big loss for them.
Yeah, let's look at Sam Hines.
Brandon Eccles.
Brandon Eccles. Okay, I was trying to look, and then I just couldn't find anything, so I just kind of stopped. But here we go. Today's bets from Sam Hine, powered by the Gamblers RS podcast on the Philly Sports Network. Go listen to that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast, or watch it on YouTube. The Gamblers RS podcast episode number 2 came out on Thursday, previewing this upcoming week and recapping and looking at the AL and NLDS. We will have one soon, looking at the AL and NLCS, and the next week in the NFL. So, Sam, Eagles -6.5 on the line today. Are they covering?
So I have them covering today. I also have them going over on the over/under, and then for a few of my player props, I've been hounding it all day, and if I'm going to hound it all day and talk about it all day, I might as well put my money where my mouth is. So I have Devontae Smith going over 58.5 receiving yards. Another one I have is DeAndre Swift going over 67.5 rushing yards. Like I said, the Jets are bottom half, or not even bottom half, they're like 28th in the league against the run so far this season. We've seen DeAndre Swift have some explosive runs, and the Eagles could definitely get up big early in the game and then kind of salt it away with the run. And then, I haven't used it so far this season, but I kind of got to go with it because it seems like it's the biggest topic in the NFL every week. But I got to go tush push. I got to go Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. And a sneaky one I was thinking about, I didn't write this down. I didn't look at the odds because I wasn't thinking about it because of the Jets. But you said that Rashad Penny is inactive, which means that Boston Scott is active, which means that Boston Scott's playing in MetLife, which we obviously know he is the giant killer. And every single time he plays at MetLife, he scores a touchdown. So while it's not against the Giants, He loves the end zones at MetLife, so maybe if that has really good odds, throw $1, $2 on it, and see what happens.
Yeah, something about that turf in North Jersey, in that swamp of the Meadowlands that he just loves
That
it.
stadium's horrible. I hate that stadium so much.
It's
I went
like
there for Eagles Jets a few years ago. My college roommate is a Jets, my old college roommate now, but he's a Jets fan. And when we played them a few years ago, we made the trip up from school, and that stadium is hard. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Elliott Shore Park said today, it's like a worse and like more bland veteran stadium.
Yeah, so if you, I was with another one of my college friends who was an Eagles fan that day, and we had never been to MetLife. So we were saying to him, and we are like, if you blindfolded us and dropped us in this stadium, we would never be able to tell you what teams play here. We're like, we understand there's two teams that play here, but there was not a single thing inside the stadium that said Jets or Giants. Like, you walk around the Sixers stadium or when the Flyers are playing, and there's the hats from the hat tricks, or there's Sixers banners everywhere. There's
Yeah,
Flyers banners everywhere. There's Wings banners everywhere. There was not a single thing in that stadium that said who played there. And I thought one thing that was really funny I saw from E-Rock tweeted out while he was in the parking lot tailgating. There is a Hulu has live sports Jalen Hurts billboard in the parking lot of MetLife right now that Hulu has put up, I guess, pretty strategically. So I thought that was really funny.
it's just such an embarrassment to the NFL that a Super Bowl was played in that stadium. It's like
Yeah, that's
it's
crazy.
just and they host so many events, so I think that was the thing is to like make it completely neutral for every event that they host. But still, you want to have representation. Like for a Sixers game, they changed some of the banners that are hung up from Sixers to Flyers, and they like actually like do stuff to make it look like you have like someone plays there. Where at
Well,
MetLife, it just
now
looks like it's just an event center.
it's just gray. It's just a gray circle. And now, I mean, now they have the new thing where they have the logos in the middle of the field instead of just the NFL logo. But even outside tailgating, when you're tailgating, we're having fun tailgating and throwing around a football, whatever. And then when it was time to go into the game, you have to take like a tunnel under the highway with like all these people and up these stairs and down the stairs through a tunnel, and like it
What?
was so it was really bad. It was really really bad. But
we
the
are
Eagles won, so
Yeah,
it was
we
good.
are so thankful that our stadiums are all in the same complex, even though it's
Yeah.
going to change in a few years when the Sixers move out. But we're so lucky that everything's just together, and it's just all on one ground, and it's so easy to get in and out. The 95 is right there, and there's so many places to park. We are so lucky, and we should be so thankful that our stadiums are so good and they're so easy to manage.
Yeah, I mean, down here, over in Tampa, they got the Bucks playing in one area, they got the Lightning playing in another. They have the Braves playing in St. Pete, and where the Rays fans are like, oh, I don't even want to go to a playoff game because I have to drive over a bridge. Okay, everyone from New Jersey has to drive over a bridge to get to Philly, but it is a lot easier access. And yeah, we are definitely extremely lucky with the setup up there in the sports complex.
It's going to be interesting on Tuesday. Did you see what's going on? The Flyers home opener at 6, Phillies at 8, and then the Germany and Mexico friendly at the link at 8 o'clock.
That is
It's gonna
a
be hell
mess.
down there. It's gonna be bad. Like I
You're
feel
gonna have to park at like Pat's and Gino's and walk, or like from people from New Jersey, you're gonna have to park in Audubon and walk over the bridge or something. Like it is gonna be a disaster. But
yeah, I
hey,
it's that's
we know
why
they'll show up.
it's gonna be sold out at all those stadiums. It's gonna be interesting. That's why we got tickets for Game 1 of the NLCS because I won the
There you go.
lottery. Won the lottery for the Phillies again. Two rounds in a row with two different emails. So
Gotta
got
give me
lucky
that
again.
email address. I need some help.
Yeah, we're getting pretty lucky. So we got Monday. We're going to Game 1 tomorrow. Very excited about that. But for now, let's stick to
Nice.
the Eagles. We're about 24 minutes until kickoff on Fox for America's Game of the Week, which is ridiculous that this is a Game of the Week, but it is what it is. Keys to the game. What are your keys to the game against the New York Jets?
All right, so I got two keys today. My first one is going to be force Zach Wilson to make mistakes. If we can kind of shut down the running game early to where they think that they are going to have to pass to keep up with us, or if we can get an early lead on offense, get a few touchdowns going where they have to pass the ball. if we can force Zach Wilson to be confused either on the back end or because we're getting really good pressure on him, he's going to start making turnovers. He's played in 26 games in his career, played in 27 games, started 26, and he has 28 turnovers in his career. So he will turn the ball over. So that's going to be key number one. And my second key is to fix the red zone offense. The Jets, like I mentioned, are extremely bad in the red zone on defense. They are one of the worst teams in the league. They have all their corners out today. The Eagles are going to try to, for sure, and need to get back into scoring in the red zone, kind of get that momentum going, especially because if they can get some momentum going with that, we have a big test against a really good team in Miami next week. So you don't want to have to try to figure that out there. So I think one of the biggest things is going to just be take advantage of the Jets' injuries, especially in the red zone.
That's for sure. Let's look at the Sam Hine fit check for today's game. I got in the StreamYard, and the first thing I noticed is the jersey you have on today. So what are we doing here, Sam?
So today we're going with probably my greatest thrift find of all time. I have the 75th anniversary throwback Brian Dawkins jersey, the powder blue and the yellow. Definitely one of the ugliest jerseys of all time, but it is a cool piece to have as they wore it one game for their 75th anniversary, and to have it with Dawkins, a Hall of Famer. Definitely a really cool piece, as there's not many of these out there. I normally wear a hat for every game, but I have yet I have been looking, but I've yet to find a hat to match this jersey. So going no hat today, but glad that I found this piece and able to wear it today. I actually planned on wearing it last week, and then I realized the Rams are yellow and blue, so I figured let's not wear a yellow and blue jersey against the Rams. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we gotta save that.
And we got the Kelly Green next week, so
that's gonna be exciting. I'm happy. I'm excited for that. But no offense to you, but that jersey sucks. They were the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets when they wore those jerseys back in the 30s until they became the Philadelphia Eagles and started wearing green. Is that just like when the Eagles turn 100 in 10 years? They really hope they don't bring those back because they stink. Those are terrible jerseys. Anyway,
they're fun.
Yeah, sure, they're fun. They're great. The predictions for today's Week 6 game. Will the Eagles be going 6-0, Sam?
So I do think we're going to start off this exciting week in Philadelphia sports with another Philadelphia Eagles win. I have the Eagles winning 27-17, moving to 6-0 as the Phillies take on Game 1 of the NLCS tomorrow. We're going to be all happy leading up to that game, heading into Miami next week, our biggest test yet at 6-0.
Yeah, we get to host Miami. I'm excited for that jersey matchup. The Dolphins have some of the best jerseys in the NFL, possibly the best jerseys in the NFL, and the Kelly Greens coming back for the first time for a long time. The only guy to ever wear the Kelly Greens in the current Eagles is Brandon Graham, and he's been around the longest out of anybody. And
those were the ugly Kelly Greens.
Yeah, those were not the great. These are the nice new Nike ones. So these it should be a good jersey matchup, but today not such a great jersey matchup because the Jets jerseys stink. But my prediction, I think the Eagles get a little. What'd you say? 27-17?
Yeah, 27-17.
All right, I don't think the Jets. I think this is going to be a slaughter. I think the Eagles kill the Jets today. I have the Eagles winning 30-14. I don't think this one's particularly close. I don't think it's ever close. The Eagles are going to get off to a hot start and just maintain that momentum all game. The defense is going to get a bunch of turnovers, and it's just going to be ugly for the Jets today. After their win over the Broncos last week, the Jets are in for pain against the Eagles. So is there anything we missed that you need to that we should go back over? Or are we good to chill for a little bit until we got a football?
No, I mean, on this game, I think we kind of covered it all. It sucks definitely that Aaron Rodgers is not playing in this game, and feel bad for Jets fans. My grandparents are Jets fans, and know they were really excited after a horrible Mets season that they were going to have Aaron Rodgers. But like I said, it's tough for Jets fans. They just have been. We've been there where we've had really bad teams, and they finally get hope with getting a former MVP quarterback, and they come in and first drive of the game gets injured. It's tough for them, and definitely as a team, even though they're from New York, we don't really have any rivalry with them. And as fans from afar, you can definitely feel for their pain as they had so much hope going into this season, and it kind of got stricken away. Even though, I mean, Rodgers is throwing today apparently in pregame warm-ups, but I mean, we'll see. If they keep playing the way they are, they're not going to be in it where it would even make sense for him to come back this season. So it'll be interesting to see, but definitely feel for Jets fans, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's something about the Jets, and the Mets, and the Nets. They can just not. It always goes wrong, and God, I hate the Mets, and the Jets are right up there as teams I hate because just something about those New York fans is just. But it's just it sucks. The Jets were the Jets haven't been good since 1969 when they won the Super Bowl with Joe Namath, and Joe Namath is the most overrated quarterback in NFL history. So it's just the Jets have never been good, and this is their one time where they were actually expected to be good, and well, it's just constant pain in New York.
It's crazy because it feels like you're just living your life over again if you're a Jets fan. It must, because you get a quarterback from a former MVP quarterback from the Packers. All the hope is there. Comes in, gets hurt. Brett Favre.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers comes in, gets hurt. Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers comes in, gets hurt, just like Brett Favre. So it's crazy that Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre have been on the exact same career path, and it's amazing. And I'm excited to see Aaron Rodgers in a Minnesota Vikings jersey next offseason.
Wow, big call from Sam Hine right there. Wow.
Well, I mean, that's how Brett Favre ended his career. He retired, then he went over to Minnesota. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, that's all he's got to do is just retire, unretire, go to Minnesota, and then they have the exact same career. I mean,
I doubt he'll retire, but it'd be iconic to see him do it and then just say, I'm just gonna pull Brett Favre and come back and then just play for the Vikings for a couple games and then call it a year. Call it a career. But how about this? The Eagles have never lost to the Jets ever. So they are. What's the exact record? Do you know off the top of your head?
12-0.
All time?
Yep.
They've only played 12 games.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, I thought it was more than that. But yeah, 12-0 the Eagles and the Jets. They look to go 13-0 today. We both think they will. And they should. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for watching today's Eagles pregame show brought to you by SeatGeek. Use code Philly Sports Report. Save $20 off your first purchase. This has been Week 6's Eagles pregame show. We'll see you next week in Week 7. Go like and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow us there. Instagram as well. Follow us. TikTok and Threads. We are on as well. So go make sure to follow us there. Sam Hyde will have you with the Eagles recap after today's game on phillysportsports.com. Go check it out there. Join us for the NLCS pregame shows. This whole week we'll be live every game except game 1. So check us out there. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter will be live 30 minutes before each game. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Go Eagles! Go Birds!
Go Birds!